Well, I got a letter from my neighbors and friends and the President of the United States requesting that...
Greetings.
Yeah, greetings is what it was, right.
And you were married at the time to Myra?
Yeah, and I had Nancy. And we had a guy in our company that had 6 kids. He'd been a beer truck driver from New York City. And I thought, gee, they took us at that time up to 38 years. I was at Sampson for a month. I was home for a week. And like I told Myra, when I got there, my name was on the board to go overseas. So right away, I was a apprentice seaman for a month, and I was seaman second for a week, and then I became seaman first. There had to be that to go overseas. So we left from Bayonne, New Jersey, in the LST 624. And on our deck, we had a couple of tanks and trucks and jeeps. And on our deck, we had an LCT, that's landing craft tank. And that was a pretty good sized boat. That was on the deck, so you could just get around the side of it. And I thought, gee, that little LST, they weren't very big, probably 200 some feet. Well, anyway, we went across in a convoy of 176 ships. And we had 2 flat tops with us, and I don't know how many destroyers and destroyer escorts. They were circling us all the time. We were going to land at Londonderry, Ireland, and the first ship that started in, they had submarine nets across. They put 2 ships through at a time. And the first one through blew from something, what we didn't know, so we all scattered down the coast. All the LSTs on our trip went down to Milford Haven and pulled in, and it was starting to storm. So we were there till they called us, and then we went to Plymouth and unloaded.
1944?
In May.
1944? And
Yeah.
we all know June 6th was D-Day.
Yeah. Actually, D-Day was supposed to be the 5th. And we was having a storm, and you've probably seen it on TV time and time again, where Eisenhower had to make the decision. So they called us to general quarters at 9 o'clock on the 4th, and it says, we will be leaving for somewhere in France at 11 o'clock, unless we get further orders. Well, at 11 o'clock, Eisenhower decided it was too rough to go, so they postponed it for 24 hours.
When you're told for probably the first time what your mission is, that you're going over to France June 4th.
Well, we knew that was going to be the invasion.
That was it.
Yeah. After we got off the LST, we went to Milford Haven and picked up our ship. Well, we were in charge of unloading all the LSTs, and then they put a DP on it. Now I can't tell what it stood for. So when we come in, we were the only thing ahead of us. When we got in, there was those that picked up the minesweeps, and so the beaches weren't marked at this point. So we overshot our mooring. We had to work our way back, and the high tide was from 5 until about 7. And that's when they intended to land. They figured the most landing. We were supposed to be in there at 6 till they start landing. The Texas and another battle wagon were sent about 2 miles out, lobbing big stuff in. And then they unloaded troop ships pretty close to them. So by the time they got in there, it was past 7. Mm-hmm. And
in the morning.
Yeah. And the tide had started to recede. There was a 24-foot tide there at that particular 2 or 3 days. And so the obstacles that the Germans had placed were railroad ties, all over in there. And at 6 o'clock, we would have cleared those. But by 7, we were hitting them. So a lot of the landing crafts got hooked up on those things, and the guys had to get off and water way over their head. So consequently, a lot of them drowned because they had their 90-pound pack on their backs and their rifles. And so by the time we got back, the beach was littered with guys. At Omaha, that was the beach above ours. We were, and the water was full of the ocean was full of bodies. They were picking up all they could. Yeah, Utah Beach. And Utah Beach was fairly level. That's why it was chose for the LSG to land. Now, Omaha was right next to, that whole beach was, total was about 7 miles long. And we were Utah and Omaha. Then there was Gold, and the British had, and there was 5 beaches anyway. British were in 1 and 2, and the Australians and Canadians were in the 5th one. When after we got over there, and we had planes were strafing us to begin with, the Germans, but pretty soon we had so much firepower they didn't even come near. But that first night at 9 o'clock, we had an air raid.
Were you on the beach? Did you land?
No,
then?
I was right on the ship the whole time.
Okay, yeah.
We directed traffic. Port director. Now I caught my beat. We were port directors for the, and our code name was Comland Craft. Commander of Landing Craft and Bases. And that was our address also. So we got mail immediately on that. We had the last air raid on July 25th. And they would come at 9, 10, or 11, and 2. And it was punctual just. So we see, that was what they call nuisance raids. Just so you couldn't sleep, When you don't sleep much, you don't function very well. And but the last raid was on the 25th, and we had a bunch of guys that come over to run the LCM. They were still unloading with them, and so we had 25 guys on our ship, and they said, "Well, we haven't had a raid for quite a while, so I have to worry about it." That's we had right. We hit by 2 bombs, and everybody trying to get in and up and down, and we had only 2 guys got hit by shrapnel. They were on guns. The planes come in, and we had the alert, and they came right on. Then they turned around and come back at low level, and so the guys were just getting off the guns, and they managed to get back in the tubs, and 2 guys were in the entrances were hit by shrapnel, right in the tail end. Well, we were probably 500 feet from the beach, directing all the LSTs. We could see what was going on at Omaha, and of course that was a high cliff, and they were climbing that thing, and so when we come in, there was supposed to be 5 big guns facing Utah. There wasn't any big guns, so all we had was small arms fire. And then they found the guns in the north in some place. So either they were going to refurbish them or replace them. So we had no big guns in Utah at all. So consequently, we lost about 200 in Utah against the thousands at Omaha. So we got the alert that there was German planes, and immediately we got the whole fire. But by that time, there were so many ships all firing. So there was 2 British fighters that were being chased by 3 German fighters, and they come down over the ships, or over the beaches to see where they were at. And they come in. They had everything come in to our right and went out to our left. Right. And they would come in, and anything out of that was considered enemy planes. So consequently, they shot all 5 of them down.
While playing in the minors, he was drafted and went into the Navy. Yogi was there for the historic Normandy invasion in 1944.
One of the British, they picked him up. He bailed out. And found out after once I was listening to something, and Yogi Berra was saying that he was on the beach over there, and he was in the Navy, and he said we picked up a British airman. He said we took it to some ship. He said they left him there. They took care of him. They had a doctor there and everything. Well, that was our ship. We also had survivor gear aboard.
No kidding.
And so Yogi Berra was there. You were scared, too. Oh, man. Everybody was scared.
Sure.
And then, planes were coming over and ships were being sunk.
How long were you there?
We were at Utah Beach for 5 months.
5 months.
And because we got in there on June 6th, and we were supposed to go out there on October 5th, I think, but we had to rebuild the ship before we dared to cross the channel. And when we went back across the channel, we had an Army tug with us and an empty tanker and a British destroyer, and it got starting to get rough, and I have never been in such a storm in my life. So the Army tug started taking up. Huh?
Did you get sick?
No, I never got seasick. The Army tug started taking on water, so the destroyer took that back to Cherbourg. So we're just us in the tanker, and that tanker was empty. It'd be over on the right going backwards, on the left going. They couldn't steer the thing, and everything was breaking loose on the ship because we were doing 45-degree rolls, and the Liberty ship will only do 47. They'll keep going.
Right.
So the skipper got on a horn. He said, "We're going to run with the storm." He said, "instead of trying to cross it, which means we won't get into to Plymouth tonight." So I don't know how far south we went, but the minute they changed course, things leveled off a little bit, because we're crossing that North Sea is rough, and it's all come funneling down.
BBC Home Service. We're interrupting programs to make the following announcement. It is understood that in accordance with arrangements between the three great powers, an official announcement will be broadcast by the Prime Minister at 3 o'clock tomorrow. In view of this fact, tomorrow, Tuesday, will be treated as Victory in Europe Day.
Victory in Europe.
Yeah.
What was the reaction?
Oh boy, that was jubilation. and we were in town. They didn't announce it till towards the evening, so half the sailors, Exeter Supply Base, at full complement, we had 2,300 men on it. Of course, there weren't that many towards the end, but half of them were probably in town, and the newspaper had a picture of the town clock in the town, and it said 2 o'clock. And there was a sailor in the tree, and the jeeps were coming. All naval personnel report back to the base by 12 o'clock. And they were 2 in the morning. But then when the Victory Japan, they knew it in there, so we couldn't even get off the base.
Really?
So they brought in beer, and they made sandwiches, and we dragged the piano out of the street. We had our own Red Cross club there because it was so big. Yeah. And then everybody was having a good time, and it started to rain, so that ended it. When it was over, I think I went from Seaman First to Petty Officer Third.
So at some point you catch up with Myra.
Well, I would say that, I called her, and but when I got off the train in Westfield, and Myra and Nancy come across the tracks, that's got to be the happiest moment of my life.
Right.